I never thought my life would twist into such a bizarre mess, the kind of thing you usually only see in movies or trashy novels. Yet there I was, standing at the threshold of a party I never wanted to attend, arm in arm with the wife of the man who had been sleeping with my wife. Even saying that out loud in my head felt absurd, surreal, like I was trapped in some cruel joke. But it wasn't a joke. It was my reality, and what happened next would change the course of my life forever. My revenge wasn't planned in some neat, cinematic way. It wasn't the product of cold, careful plotting. It was raw, messy, emotional, and yet strangely satisfying. And as I look back now, I can say with full certainty that I regret none of it. I'll start at the beginning. My wife and I had been married for 7 years. 7 years of what I thought was loyalty, stability, and love. I wasn't perfect, but I had tried to provide, tried to listen, tried to build the kind of life people dream about. We had a modest home, decent jobs, and plans for the future. Children were on the horizon, though my wife had kept delaying, saying she wasn't ready. I never pushed her. I trusted her. That trust was the knife that ended up slicing through me in the ugliest way. I discovered her affair by accident. One night, she left her phone charging in the kitchen. Normally, I would never snoop, I wasn't that type. But her phone buzzed, and the preview flashed words that made my stomach knot instantly. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow, love." Same hotel. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Against every instinct that told me this was going to hurt, I opened the thread. And there it was, weeks, months of messages. Intimate, passionate, mocking. She called him things she hadn't called me in years. She joked about how gullible I was, how easy it was to sneak away. I remember sitting there in the dark kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound, my entire body frozen. My wife, the person I had built my life around, was living a double life with another man. I scrolled up and finally saw his name. I knew him, not well, but enough. He was a manager at a firm across town, married too, with 2 children. His wife, Emily, was someone I'd only met briefly at a community event, a polite woman with kind eyes. My rage twisted into something else when I thought of her. She was a victim too. That night, when my wife came to bed, I pretended to be asleep. I stared at her silhouette in the dim light, wondering how many lies were sitting in her chest, how many times she'd smiled at me while already thinking of him. I didn't confront her, not right away. Confrontation would give her control, give her the chance to lie, to manipulate, to twist the story in her favor. No, I wanted something deeper. The next day, instead of going to work, I called in sick. I found Emily's number through some contacts and hesitated before dialing. When she answered, her voice was soft, cautious. I introduced myself, and after a moment of silence, I said, "I think we need to talk about our spouses." At first, she was confused. Then, as I explained, her breathing quickened, and she whispered, "Oh my God." She already suspected something but hadn't had proof. My words broke her. For a while, she just cried on the phone, and I stayed silent, because what could I say? We met in person later that week, in a quiet cafe. She looked tired, worn down, as if the truth had been draining her long before I came along. We shared everything, the messages, the lies, the excuses. It was like holding a mirror up to our pain. There was something oddly comforting about sitting with someone who truly understood, even though we'd been strangers before. That's when the seed of revenge started to form. Not out of cruelty, but out of the undeniable need to take back our dignity, our power. We started talking more. At first, it was just logistics, sharing updates, figuring out when they met, how long this had been going on. But soon it became something else. Emily had a sharp wit beneath her sadness. She could make me laugh even when I thought laughter had been permanently stripped from me. And I think I gave her a sense of strength she'd been lacking, a partner in this nightmare. We both agreed we didn't want to confront them right away. Instead, we wanted them to feel the sting of what they'd done. The opportunity came sooner than we expected. One of Emily's friends was throwing a big party, her birthday, in fact, and both Emily and her husband were invited. Through sheer coincidence, my wife was also invited by another mutual acquaintance. Emily looked at me across the cafe table when she told me, her lips curling into the faintest smile. "What if," she said slowly. We went together. At first, the idea felt insane. But the more I thought about it, the more it thrilled me. To walk in with Emily, to hold her hand in front of our cheating spouses, to show them that we were not broken, not destroyed, it was poetic justice. It was the kind of move that would burn them from the inside out. And so, we agreed. The night of the party, I stood outside Emily's house, nerves rattling in my chest like coins in a jar. She stepped out in a black dress that clung elegantly to her figure, her hair falling in waves. She looked stunning, and for a moment, I forgot this was about revenge. For a moment, it felt like a date. When she slid her arm through mine, it was natural, electric. We drove in silence, the anticipation thick between us. Walking into that party was like stepping onto a stage. The room buzzed with music and chatter, glasses clinking, people laughing. But my eyes went straight to my wife. She was across the room, standing with him, laughing at something he said. The sight hit me like a punch, but Emily squeezed my arm, grounding me. Together, we walked straight into the lion's den. When my wife saw us, her laughter froze midair. Her lover's face drained of color. The shock on their faces was everything I'd hoped for. Emily and I greeted a few people casually, as if nothing was unusual. I leaned down and whispered something in her ear just to watch my wife's jaw tighten. Emily laughed softly, playing along. The performance was flawless. Throughout the night, we made sure to stay visible. We danced together, slow and close, our bodies moving in rhythm while our spouses fumed in the corner. At one point, my wife stormed over, hissing, "What the hell are you doing?" I looked her dead in the eyes and said calmly, "What you've been doing for months." The way her face crumpled with guilt and rage was priceless. Emily's husband wasn't any calmer. He pulled her aside, demanding answers, but she only smiled sweetly and said, "Ask yourself, darling." The beauty of it was that we didn't need to yell, didn't need to expose them publicly. The silence, the insinuation, the mirror we held up to their betrayal, it was louder than any scene we could have caused. They spent the rest of the evening sulking, unable to enjoy themselves, while Emily and I owned the room. For once, the power was ours. But that night was only the beginning. After the party, things spiraled. My wife tried to explain, to beg, to justify. She said it was a mistake, that she still loved me, that we could fix it. Her words bounced off me like raindrops on stone. I had already detached. Emily's husband went down a similar path, alternating between anger and pathetic apologies. Emily, however, was done. She filed for divorce soon after, and I followed suit. During the process, Emily and I grew closer. What started as shared pain became something genuine, something warm. We didn't rush it. We were cautious, aware of how complicated it all was. But the bond was undeniable. I won't pretend it was easy. There were nights I still lay awake, haunted by images of betrayal. But Emily was there, steady and resilient, pulling me back into the light. My revenge wasn't loud or dramatic in the end. It wasn't about destroying lives or screaming in public. It was about reclaiming myself, about showing my wife and her lover that their deceit didn't shatter me, it made me stronger. It gave me Emily, and that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all. As months passed, I rebuilt my life brick by brick. My wife moved out, her presence fading like a bad dream. I heard through the grapevine that her relationship with her lover didn't last. They were too consumed by guilt and mistrust to survive. Good. Let them stew in the mess they made. Meanwhile, Emily and I found joy again, little by little. We laughed more, traveled, explored parts of ourselves we had buried during our miserable marriages. Sometimes, when we're together at a party or just sitting quietly on the couch, I think back to that night. The night we walked into the room arm in arm, flipping the script, taking back our dignity. It still makes me smile. Because in that moment, we weren't victims. We were survivors. And we showed them, without a single scream or accusation, that we would never be their fools again. So yes, I went to a party with my wife's lover's wife. And what happened next wasn't just unbelievable, it was liberating. It was the night I stopped being a man betrayed and became a man reborn. My revenge wasn't about breaking them. It was about rising above them. And in the end, that's exactly what I did.